color changes. Okay. Just so you guys know, I already read through the items this morning because I thought it was gonna be a small patch, and then I got down to like here, and I was like, oh shit. I looked at my scroll bar and I saw there's a lot to go. So we will jump through it. All right, let's see. Miss a podcast? Get this. It's got a VOD. You can watch it. All right, added Dawnbreaker to Captain's mode. I was a little surprised about this because it is pretty close to TI, but I thought maybe they should have added Dawnbreaker to Captain's mode first, then buffed or nerfed her. But I guess if they felt like she wasn't that broken, that she'd be fine to add in. So, new hero gets added for TI. That's cool. Stack neutral creeps gold and experience bounty reduced by 15%. So, stacker gold bonus unaffected. So, this is kind of a really big deal. So basically, your initial camp, let's say it's worth 100 gold and 100 experience. The second camp, the stacked camp, will only be worth 85 gold and 85 experience. So over the course of a stack, this is a pretty decent nerf to stacking, basically. Even just a stacked camp is now a little bit less. I guess if you stack a camp, then clearing that camp, you're only losing like 7.5%, which is really not that bad. But the more camps that you stack, if we're talking like 4 and 5 stacks, the amount of money that you lose is closer to 15%, basically. So that's for the person farming it. The people that don't farm it still get the same gold. So it's still very incentivized for people to stack. It's just a little bit weaker for the carry or the core that's going to clear the stacks. And people were asking for nerfs like this, nerfs to stacking in some way. I think this is a kind of a cool way to do it, so it still incentivizes supports to do it, but carries won't get quite as much benefit from it. It also means, actually, and this is something that's kind of interesting, is that if you have the ability to clear camp before it respawns, it's financially beneficial for you to do it. In the past, normally what you do is you'd say like, well, I shouldn't clear this camp because I'm about to clear the one that spawns afterwards. So you'll wait a second, stack it, and then clear it because it's usually more efficient to clear 2 camps at the same time than it is to clear 1 camp twice. You usually take more damage. The amount of mana you spend is usually higher. If you do 1 camp, then 1 camp. But now the difference is that you get a little bit more gold if you kill your camp, then clear camp again. So that's something to keep in mind. But ultimately, these numbers are going to be a little bit small, so it probably won't mean that much ultimately. But it is a small gold nerf, so it will make stacking a little bit less efficient. And this should allow it for like Ice Frog and the other beta testers to not have to continue nerfing people that are good at clearing. I don't know if they're going to keep going down this line, but we'll see. Third stack is 85 of 85. Is that true? Is that really how it works? Oh, you don't know? I doubt that's how it works. I'd be surprised personally. That's like a big nerf. That's like a big nerf to like multi-stacking to mega stacks. It's like a huge nerf to mega stacks. I'd be surprised if it works like that. I think it's already a nice nerf that it's 85% instead of 100. And I assume it'll be like that every camp after the first one would be 85 all the way through. If it keeps going lower, if it keeps being 15% less with every stack, I'd be really surprised, because that'd really make like a 5 or 6 stack, which is supposed to be like a cool thing, make it feel a lot weaker. Ancient Black Dragon, Fireball mana cost increase. These are nerfs to Helm of the Overlord, which made it way too easy to split push with this, because the dragon has like 5 mana per second. So it would, every 20 seconds you have enough mana to do another fireball, so you just keep clearing camps. I think its mana pool is like 500 or something, 300 to 500, something like that. So this is going to make it a lot harder to just spam creep waves endlessly. You'll have to actually attack, which will give a bigger window for you to kill the creep. Thunderhide, Frenzy mana cost, that's the one that gives you a lot of attack speed. That mana cost has gone up, and the Slam mana cost has also gone up to make it also not as incredible at clearing camps. Black Dragon is the best one, but Thunderhide was a good second, especially for sieging towers, so this makes sense. Echo Saber get nerfed because it is very strong in terms of its benefits. Less mana regen now, and bonus strength is reduced by 2. And also Swashbuckle attacks are no longer going to continue proccing with Echo Saber. So in the past, when you do it with Swashbuckle on Pango, every hit would proc Echo Saber. So basically, for the entire time that Swashbuckle hits you, you're not moving. Now it's just going to proc the first time, but not continuously throughout the whole thing. So there will be a little bit less slow. And Tree Toss with Tiny, same thing. It would also not proc Echo Saber. So when you would do the Tree Toss with Ags, you would continually get hit by Echo Saber and slowed. So this being removed right here is kind of a big deal for Tiny Core. Not that it's played that much in terms of like the Ags, even though they did buff the Ags build after the patch. They increased the splash damage that the Tree Toss does. we're probably not going to see Tiny Core quite as much then, because it was kind of like a nice way to keep people in the AoE while you ultied them or use the tree thing. And this is a feature that was known about for a long time. They just left it in. Now they just fixed it. So no longer works. So Echo Saber nerfed for some of those cheesy type heroes, still going to be effective as like a right click item. And these like nerfs to mana regen and strength are not so significant that we still won't see it. Like I'm sure people will still buy Echo Saber unless there ends up being an item that's better. Monkey King attack speed bonus increased by 10 here is pretty solid. It's starting to make it like a more reasonable item to have in terms of attack speed. The chance to pierce evasion is pretty high. The magic damage is kind of weak, but if we look how much damage it is, it's 7, 14 less, so 56 damage. It's basically 56 magic damage and 40 physical damage per attack, which is pretty good. So about 100 damage item. Not bad for 5k. And then 45 attack speed. It's actually looking like a decent damage item, to be honest, with all that attack speed. So looks pretty good. Silver Edge cooldown increased by 2 seconds, a little nerf to the item. Make it harder to get a lot of value. Man, this does 60 damage. It's a lot. But Silver Edge been pretty popular in some heroes like Sven. Status resistance reduced a little bit. Basically, they've nerfed Sanji and Asha a bunch, but people are still kind of buying it. So the HP regen and lifesteal amp has been nerfed a lot. It used to be like 30 or 35% or something. Now reducing the status resistance as well. It's going to make it not much better than just a Sanj, in fact. If I could ever find a Sanj. 12, okay, it's 12 status resistance just for the Sanj. They nerfed it from 16 down to 12. So combining them still gives you an extra 10% status resistance, which is really not that bad. And then same for Sanj on Kaya. Helm of Iron Will increased by a little bit. They reduced armlet recipe to make sure the cost is the same, but the reason they nerfed this was to also nail Helm of the Dominator. It's going to increase the cost a little bit, but most importantly, the nicest thing about Helm of Iron Will, without a doubt, is buying it really early in the laning stage, because it basically gives you a ring of health worth of regen, but also a lot of armor. 6 armor is a lot for one item slot right now. So if you can get this item in the laning stage, it kind of like stabilizes things. So anybody that buys Armlet or anybody that buys Helm of the Dominator is really happy to get a fast one of these, because it makes sure that your laning stage is pretty much going to be okay. Especially because like if your armor goes up and you have regen, then every point of regen you get is more valuable, because every point of HP is more valuable if you have more armor. So getting a Helm of Iron Will in the laning stage is really godly if you can get there. And increasing the cost by a little bit is going to lower your chances of getting it before you need it, or getting it early. Like, 'cause it might force you to have to buy more regen to get you to the Helm of Iron Will. Or if you're punished in lane more, it's going to be harder to get there. So this 25 gold normally be like, not a big deal. But for Helm of Iron Will, it's kind of a big deal, because this item is so good at survivability. Sacred Relic reduced by 20 or 50 gold. Sorry, this is a big deal. I haven't seen this. This has been 3,800 for literally a decade. No, for like 15 years more like. It's been 3,800 forever. It's always been a very expensive item, but slightly reduced. Radiance basically doesn't get built much right now. You see it on some like Wraith Kings, I guess, maybe, but not that often. Oh, and also with this going up, this is also Nullifier. This goes up 25, this goes down 50, so Nullifier is still a little bit cheaper. So maybe that's why they lowered the cost here. Makes Rapier cheaper too. So Armlet's still good. Crimson Guard recipe reduced a little bit. Nobody buys Crimson Guard right now, basically ever. Basically just not seen as that good of an item. It's pretty good against like minus armor strats, and there's a decent amount right now with Venge, so maybe it'll still be, maybe it'll be valuable to build, but generally we just don't see it much. Also, there's a Helm of Iron Will and Crimson Guard as well, so that's the other thing, is that they had to reduce it even more. It's only went down 50 gold, so really not that much of a reduction. And then Helm of Iron Will, total cost increased by a little bit, and Helm of the Overlord is the same cost, but they're also going to nerf some of the stats. So 1 less attribute, 1 less regen, 1 less armor, and more gold for the creep that dies. It goes up to 250, which is quite a bit. So if you can kill the creep, it's actually going to hurt you more financially. All right, neutral item changes. Aesthetics cap, which I have not used yet. Status resistance bonus reduced a little bit. I thought this item looked pretty sick actually when it came out. Just really nice way to like stay alive if you get disabled. Blast Rig is also getting nerfed. Less blind, aka, isn't it disarm? Oh no, it's miss for 100%. Oh, I didn't realize. I assumed it was disarm for some reason, but 100% miss chance for 2 seconds. Still does 300 damage. I don't know, I always look at it, I'm like, yeah, the armor would be nice, but should I bother? But the fact that it does 300 damage is pretty sick, actually. Apex is reduced by 5. Excuse me. Giant's Ring, less strength here. Less movement speed too. Telescope, a little bit of nerf on range, and then Witchbane is no longer going to do a AoE cleanse, aka Dispel. It's a single target one now. It's an enemy or ally. Okay. I haven't used this yet either, but I've heard good things about the cleanse. Hero changes. Abaddon. I'm going to get a borrowed time cooldown talent. Slack's going to be probably happy about this. The sad part for him is that he would probably get Aphotic Shield, but because he likes getting nags, lowering the cooldown sounds pretty good to me. So that's kind of cool. Elk getting a buff, 3 base damage increase. That's like a 1.5 damage increase, so it's okay. Nothing incredible. And mana cost reductions for Chemical Rage to make it a little bit easier to survive without having to spend as much mana, so that's fine. And then buffs to AA's talents that nobody gets. More Chilling Touch attack range. That talent's pretty far. Like 200 range is a lot for an attack, actually. Kind of interesting. I never maxed that skill, though, first. But with this talent getting buffed, like part of the reason I always want 8% Spell Amp is because I plan to like Ice Blast a guy. And 8% damage increase on Ice Blast is really valuable. But now that Ice Blast cooldown is so high, I feel like 8% Spell Amp is becoming less and less useful. And that the real way to do good damage is Chilling Touch, potentially. So this kind of makes sense. And then I haven't played AA since they changed them, but Cold Feet breaking distance increased to plus 200 to make it easier for people to have to run farther away whenever you Cold Feet them now. And then Chilling Touch damage increased at 20 as well. So, and then AoE Cold Feet reduced a little bit as well because, again, that talent is way better than the other one generally because you get AoE. All right, Arc Warden strength, base strength and gain is reduced. Base agility is increased. With the damage stayed the same. So little 4 extra agility, 4 extra attack speed, a little bit more armor. This is going to make the hero a little better at fighting really. And then the Ag Scepter secondary Spark Wraith activation delay reduced by 1 second. That's kind of a big deal, actually. That could really make Ags a lot better. I've played against this before, and it's pretty scary, actually. The amount of damage it outputs is quite good. And then 25 talent lifesteal increased. Because everybody always gets Tempest double duration naturally. But 35% lifesteal is pretty sick. So if you get Ags and you get level 20, get the Spark Wraith damage. We're talking, yeah, about 440 damage times 2. And 2 seconds is low enough. You could definitely reproc it on the same guy. But usually it's like 3 seconds was kind of a lot where like your chances of reprocking on the same guy is not very good. But this could be pretty good. I like this. Bane getting little nerfs. 0.1 nerf to all of his stat gain. A little nerf to magic resistance talent. And a little nerf to his 25 talent. Making Fiend's Grip. These are like pretty inconsequential. I grab the magic resistance talent sometimes, but not even all the time. Sometimes a lot of times I grab armor, I feel like. But maybe he's a little bit too survivable. These are just like his win rate is really high, and this is going to make the tiniest little difference where sometimes he'll die when he wouldn't have otherwise. So I'm sure Bane will still be popular at TI. Like the 25 talent nerf is effectively irrelevant. It's very rare that you get 25 on Bane in a serious game. So these like little stacking nerfs are pretty, like I said, very insignificant. But they're not insignificant because over the course of like 1,000 games, one Bane will lose because he'll die a little bit more or something like that, or he'll have not enough mana. But generally, it's like not enough to really like put his win rate in a bad place where you'd want to stop playing him. So Batrider base vision is buffed actually, so his day vision is much better than it used to be. Napalm no longer increases Fey Grenade damage. I did see a Reddit thread people talking about this, how busted it was. Because it would tick 7 times, so it was like the most broken flame break. That it was like better than, I saw somebody comment that it was better to get Fey Grenade than like a tier 4 item on Batrider because it just does so much damage. This is like an ability draft thing basically where you use Sticky Napalm with something else that's going to be really broken. So that's good they removed that. That sounds way too good. And then they nerfed the Napalm duration by 1 second, so it's going to be a little bit harder to restack on people in lane. And then Flame Break damage per second reduced by 5, which is, I mean, kind of a big deal in the sense that, but it's more of like a big deal later on. But ultimately not that big of a deal Later, basically, at level 1 Flame Break, that's only 10 less damage. It's not much, basically. Later on, it's 8 times 5, 40. It's really not that much damage. So, little baby nerfs here. The bigger one is no Fey Grenade. He did get Vision, though. And Napalm duration will matter a little bit. And then, oh, I see. So, basically, they took Vision bonus out of Firefly, and they just gave it back to Batrider. So, he still gets Vision bonus from Firefly. So, he'll get a slight vision advantage during daytime over what he had before. No, it's actually the same. So, effectively, if you aren't using Firefly, you will have okay vision now. And then the cooldown is nerfed, so worse early. So, and most people go like max Napalm first, get like 1 Firefly right now. So, this will matter just a little bit. It's going to be harder to clear camp so that, because it only lasts 15 seconds. So, if your cooldown's like 50, the amount of windows you have to kill somebody with Firefly are pretty low. I honestly wonder if maybe people will go Flame Break instead. You can't though. Firefly is just so much damage. 15 seconds of like ticks is a lot. So, all right, I gotta blow my nose. Okay, Beastmaster, base damage reduced by 2. Primal Roar cooldown is going up, but also going down. So worse early, better later, which makes some sense. That's usually where Beastmaster falls off. So they're making his early game worse, but his later game better. And then 10 talent, instead of 20 movement speed, he gets mana regen. 15 talent, instead of mana regen, he gets more movement speed, so 30 movement speed. Isn't this weird? This makes me uncomfortable. Move speed, not movement speed. I'm like move speed. Ugh. 20 movement speed replaced with mana regen. So it's mana regen or damage, and then it is movement speed or wild axes. They put the damage, the axes amp. It used to be 25, now it's at 15. So they buff wild axes basically. And the Beastmaster health units is now at 20, so you can't hit this like 15 timing where your units are like impossible to control or impossible to kill. And they also remove the Primal Roar cooldown talent, which is, oh, I'm sorry, they put it at 25. Yeah, that one was like too good. Those talents were too sick. You just get the Beastmaster health talent at 15, which is really early, so then your boars have like 600 health. And then you get the minus 30 Primal Roar at 20, and then your roar's on a 40-second cooldown. It was like way too good. Now you have, now it's more delayed basically. You have to hit like 25 for your roar to be ready to go all the time. Even if it is lower, it's still like really probably needed. All right. Bloodseeker agility, a nerf. Fix level 15 talent bonus rupture damage not applying to a target that was already ruptured. That probably means if you have 2 ruptures, you double rupture a guy, it wouldn't do a second chunk of rupture damage for that initial. And then they nerfed the Blood Rage spell amp talent, which is no surprise. That one was really good. Just 10% damage increase. Hell yeah. John auto damage rescaled. So better at level 4 than it was before, but a little bit worse at the start of the game, but it's fine. Brewmaster talent, plus 90 Drunken Brawler critical strike damage instead, because this means the hero's not doing so good late game or something. Centaur double damage radius increased for double edge, and stamping cooldown increased to minus 25 seconds. Except it says minus 25. Get a proofreader, Valve. I'm not good at English. Don't hire me. But come on. Move space speed. And now this. Minus 20 second stampede cooldown increased to minus 25. Minus 25 what, Valve? How am I supposed to know? How could I possibly know what this means? I just don't know. My headset is turned off. Chaos Knight base movement speed increased by 5. Good for him. Proc chance increased to exactly 1/3. Good for you, Chaos Knight. This is a 10% increase of chance to crit Chaos Strike. Thank you, headset. Reality Rift armor reduction increased by 1. That's kind of a big deal. Little buffs to the hero. All right, Chen, who seemed really happening right when the patch came out, and then everyone stopped playing him. Generally a bad sign, guys. His armor aura has been reduced by 1 armor. That seemed a little too good. 2 armor right away. Seemed quite good. The regen per sec, however, has increased a little bit. Okay. And the 10 talent is buff, some more health, because everybody gets penitence, deals 250 damage. Clinkz. I hope you're fucking dead. Agility gain reduced by 0.2. Attack range reduced by a little bit, which is a big deal, because that means Burning Barrage. Does it go farther if you have more attack range? I don't know. It does for multi-shot. Or is that what Gyro's third skill is? I think. Doesn't look like it really goes farther necessarily. But either way, less attack range. Burning Barrage cooldown goes up by 2 seconds. That's necessary. Cast point increased. That's really necessary actually, because it takes a little bit more time. Like, this is maybe not the most significant seeming thing, but it's like in those moments where they have 0.2 seconds to either phase shift dodge, react, or to move out of the way, they'll get out of there faster, for example. It's going to affect things, certainly. And then mana cost is up. It went from 70 to 85, which is a nice start for sure, because it was probably a little too good. 70 mana was like my biggest problem. You could just spam Burning Barrage, and increasing the cooldown by 2 seconds is also a really good place to start. I'm comfortable with these nerfs so far. This looks nice, because the 2 seconds sometimes really will decrease your farm speed a lot now. And then Skeleton Walk's Shard Skeleton Archer's duration reduced by 15 seconds. That sounds super reasonable. It makes it a little bit easier to fight into him after he's been staying in the same place for a while. And bonus health from his ulti has been reduced by a lot across the board. 20% at max level. His ulti at level 1 is going to be quite a bit worse. 25% worse. So I like these reductions. These all look really good. And then Burning Army duration increased, something that nobody buys, by 10 seconds. So that looks good. But maybe people will buy it now. So not the most significant nerfs, but certainly are going to have an impact on his win rate. The agility gain is a big deal. It's not that much, but it's like over the 10 or 20 levels, we're talking like a couple points of agility. But, you know, a little bit of damage here and there, a little attack speed here and there will matter. More cooldown, more mana costs, all this stuff. Some of this is just like cleaning the hero up a little bit. The Skeleton Walk one's clean up. This is a straight nerf. I mean, 20% is a big deal. Like, this is like, you have 200 less health basically when you ulti a creep late game. That's 200 HP. That's a really big deal, considering it's always up in the late game. Having 200 less health, straight up a big deal. So I think this was absolutely necessary. The damage, whatever, but like lower his health at least as well, because like his health was just way too high, without a doubt. 200 less health late game, Burning Barrage 2 seconds longer cooldown, and has a cast point, more mana cost, so getting to your items is a little bit harder, a little bit less agility. He's still going to be good, but he's not going to be like super broken, as broken as he was. Crystal Maiden, Frostbite mana cost reduced. This is really nice actually. This means casting Nova Frostbite at level 2 is going to be way easier with the mana cost going down to 125. You can maybe justify getting Frostbite over Nova at level 1 too. Generally, I don't recommend it, because with Nova, you hit 2 heroes, the range is longer, and usually the slow lasts for 5 seconds or 4.5 seconds instead of only 1.5 of root. So generally, Nova's a much stronger ability, but certainly you can get kills at level 2 with both of these abilities, because you can do like 280 magic damage to one guy, which is quite a lot. Darkseer, Iron Shell, Egg Scepter, bonus health reduced a little bit. They are buffing the Wall of Replica cooldown talent, so 5 more seconds reduction there, and then AoE Surge is going up. So basically the babiest of nerfs to Darkseer, to say like we'll make Ag slightly worse, but generally the hero's still good. Dazzle base attack range increased, another Dazzle buff, and then 20 talent Poison Touch DPS has been buffed to 40. Dazzle definitely feels a lot better as a support. He's still not like good probably, but he's definitely improving. As a core, hooray, I haven't tried like the attack speed talent, because 20 strength is like so appealing. I think I tried it one game and maybe I got the attack speed talent. I can't remember, but thanks for the sub. Position 2 Dazzle coming. I mean, not really. Like, you can play it in pubs or whatever, but I feel like a pro team's not going to fuck around with it too much. Like, the issue is that, like, in a lot of... If you just, like, pick it in a random lineup, like, averages are, like, it's going to be a bad pick. Because a lot of times you need, like, a hero that does something around the map. And pro teams are going to be able to do this if they want to. Put Dazzle mid, you know, buy whatever item they want, and then do death pushes when they haven't made too many mistakes on the map. Like, sure, pros could do this, but, like, in the average pub, I don't think it's going to be a good idea. Because like when your allies start crying like they need a gank, or like you need to initiate on somebody that has an easy escape, like Dazzle's going to feel really, really bad. And yeah, you could like buy Midas or whatever and still abuse like the gold advantage, but I'm not sold on this being amazing still. But bonus attack range does help, certainly. Death Profit, intelligence reduced, agility gain increased. That'll help with armor and attack speed. Base mana regen increased, and base movement speed increased as well. That's pretty nice buffs. I don't think the int is a big deal. You get a lot of the items you're buying give you raw mana pool, so a little bit of int gain is not bad. I think the agility gain is a nice trade-off to give you armor, which is something that you usually have to buy somewhere in the mid game, and you can have some conflicts with that, balancing like Yules or survivability, BKB, and then an armor item. Usually you get like 3 in there that you kind of need, so I think a little agility gain is nice. 0.4 is a pretty significant amount. You know, by level 10, that's like 4 extra agi. That's almost an armor. It's like 4/7 of an armor or whatever the numbers are right now. But 0.5 mana regen is actually a lot. That's the biggest thing. So maybe Bloodstone's still garbage, but whatever. Disruptor, 25 talents. Static Storm AoE reduced to 250. I seem to remember testing that one out, and it was like massive. And then the Glimpse cooldown talent is buffed. So that put Glimpse from 18 seconds down to 7, and now 18 down to 6. So you can get Glimpse on a really low cooldown. But that Static Storm AoE is so cool. I haven't played Disruptor in a bit, I should. Dragonite base damage increased. Dragonite's win rate is in the garbage after his recent nerfs. Black Dragon magic resistance increased. It went from 40 to 20, and they were like, whoops, little strong there. So they're going to buff the magic resistance a bit. And they are giving cooldown reduction based on what level your ulti is now. This one's going to really throw people off on the trivia, where they're like, what's the cooldown of Dragonite's ultimate Elder Dragon form? It's got 4 numbers. You're like, oh, it's a basic skill. It can't be that. But yeah, every level you get, basically if you buy Ags now, it will decrease your ulti cooldown by 5 seconds, which is kind of nice. The duration is 60. So this would put you... Does he have a cooldown reduction talent still? Let's go find out.
Time to save the world.
He does not. He used to. They replaced it with Elder Dragon form attack range. But yeah, so 60 out of 100 seconds, Dragon form is pretty good, and Fireball DPS got increased. It lingers longer, but they reduced it from 80 to 60. They like over-nerfed the hero, actually. But he kind of was getting like baby nerf, and then they nerfed him again, and it was like too much. His regen in lane already got reduced by like 25% by level 4, which is a huge deal. So the hero doesn't quite... He's still like playable, but his win rate's really low. Multi-shot now applies the bonus damage component of Frosters. It didn't before? It didn't before? I legit didn't know this. That's a big deal. That's like 20 damage. Once your arrows are maxed and your multi-shot is... Well, just basically when your arrows are maxed. That's 20 damage. That's a big deal. Had no idea. Wonder if this is going to help a lot in the laning stage. Like, Topson's probably salivating at this. Because he likes playing mid-draw. I haven't seen it a bit. And she still have ulti cooldown? She doesn't, actually. She used to have cooldown talent at 25. Now it's 2 multi-shot waves. From 3 to 5. Part of the reason that cooldown talent was so good is because it's like BKB, things like that. Gives you a lot of buffs. Ag's Drow is pretty garbage, though. Frost Arrows basically does the same thing now. If you kill something, it explodes and does AoE damage. So you like don't really need to get Ags ever. Reaper's Wreath. That's a cool bow, guys. Alright, where were we? Only about halfway through. Earthshaker Enchant Totem. Agnum's Scepter Air Time decreased. Yeah, they really need to do this. This Ags was so bad, dude. They like mega over nerfed it. Well, look, they had to nerf it because it was so good for Morphling, basically. That was the annoying shit about it. It's like they had to nerf it because it was like too good. It was like good on Earthshaker too, but like the distance is like not good anymore. It's like 950 used to be like 1200 or 1300 or something like insane. You'd like fly across the map. But 950 is like a really healthy 4-staff kind of. It's like, and the amount of time you'd spend in the air was so much that it's like it's not long range. So if they see you coming, it takes too long. But now it's like lower cooldown or lower duration. So you'll actually be able to like jump on people and have them not just like easily fuck you up or pop BKB or whatever. and then they reduce the cast point as well. So that's a pretty big deal too. Basically that means that if you jump through the air, it used to take a full second. If you do it in place, it does 0.69. Nice. But now the numbers are a little bit closer, 0.8 through the air and 0.6 in melee form. So this is pretty nice, actually. This could help against Clockwork. What's his battery assault interval? It's like one of those things that's like always existed in Dota. I think it's 0.7. Yeah. So now when Clockwork hooks you as Earthshaker, you can actually cast Enchant Totem between battery assault. Confidently. Okay, come on. I was just on the patch. So big buff to Earthshaker versus Clockwork matchup, guys. You can stun him one time and slap him. No, I'm not going to play Atomic War today. I played it a lot yesterday off stream, and by the end of the night, I was like looking at the heroes of the start. I was like, I don't want to play any of these. And when that happens, I'm like, okay, I shouldn't be playing this game anymore. I've explored it enough where I feel like I more or less understand about how to play, and I don't care to refine, basically. Okay, Ember Spirit agility gaining. Plus, there's a new patch. I want to play the new patch. Ember's agility gain increased by quite a bit, 0.3, and then base health regen goes up to just make his laning better. More right-click damage, more attack speed, so you could arguably make him a better right-clicker. Be more effective against physical damage. Impetus mana cost reduced by 10. Pretty nice. Enchantress's win rate's pretty much in the dumpster as well. She had to get nerfed again because VP keeps like winning with her, more or less. Or did. And then she became bad, so now nobody touches her, so they're buffing her again. Grimstroke could use some buffs. Here's win rate's kind of bad. Buff to the Stroke of Fate cast range. And then nobody ever grabs that one pretty much because they want the extra Phantom hit. And then 25 Stroke of Fate damage increase. I mean, like, I like these talents. They're cool. But I don't know. Grimstroke's like inherently like one of those heroes that's really hard to buff because his ultimate is so broken because it combos so well with some abilities like Double Doom, Double Chain Frost. Like there was Fatal Bonds for a while that made it busted. So there's just like a lot of things that make Grimstroke good that aren't about Grimstroke necessarily. And yeah, you could still play like Grimstroke mid or whatever and get like E-Blade. 9 was doing that for a while. Thompson did it too. But these like 20 and 25 talents with the extra range, like I guess you can push from farther away, which is kind of cool, and nuke from farther away where it's safe, but I'm just not quite sold. And then the Ag Shard was really good on Grimstroke as well, so then that got too good. They had to nerf that too. Those Inkswell talents are just so good. Plus 50 Phantom's Embrace DPS. Like, this guy can do so much damage, actually. I wish they didn't change a shard. Kind of. I like the other one. I thought it was really cool in theory. I never played it, though. I think everybody looked at it and was like, eh. I thought it was cool. I just never played it, unfortunately. Gyro Homing Missile. Shard Rocket Barrage range increased by 25. So this will make it a little bit easier to buy Shard and do damage. Home Missile. Fada's happy about this because he likes playing Gyro as a support, and it's only going to be better. But Fada's not going to TI, so Fada is happy but sad. Hoodwink, Acorn Shot, slow duration increased by 0.10 seconds, and then 25. Talent no longer makes Sharpshooter deal pure damage. Okay, that's probably really fair, actually. Piercing Spell Immunity and dealing pure was like a big damage buff. Obviously, Lina Eggs does the same thing, but this is just a talent, you know? And making it deal pure damage meant that like you have no solution. And the other issue was that it just made it so good with the amp, with the Ags. It's like so good with Ags. Think of it this way. So if I'm doing 1,000 magic damage and I hit you with a boomerang that increases my damage by 25%, my boomerang now does 1250 damage. So a big increase, right? But if my 1,000 damage nuke does pure damage now with a talent, then effectively what I'm really doing is like it's like an extra 250 or 300 damage or something, because if I'm going to do 1,000 pure damage, I should be doing more like 1250 or more. Let's use easier numbers. If it does 750 magic damage and then becomes pure damage, that's equivalent to its damage increasing by 250. So rather than doing 750 pure damage is on average the same as 1,000 magic damage, right? So the damage increase is massive. It's 33% more, right? So this talent to the left gave it 33% more damage, And if they have a lot of magic resistance or a hood or something, it does even more damage, like shitloads more damage. So that talent was like insanely good. So if I'm amplifying the pure damage then, and I'm doing 33% more of like 750, then it's doing like 1,000 pure. It's just like a shitload more damage basically. It's like amplifying it twice, the math. The math is amplifying it twice. It's like two numbers multiplying together to amplify it. And it's just like even more benefit. So the amount of damage that you could do on Hoodwink with like Ags and this talent was like insane. There's like very few heroes that could do that much damage. This is a pretty necessary nerf in my opinion. It doing less piercing spell immunity, that's fine. Like, let people get that option. That's still like really, really good, obviously. But the fact that it did pure as well was like bonkers good. How do you amp pure damage? There are some abilities that allow you to... Well, the first way is if you can get spell amp. If you buy Null Talisman, if you buy a Bloodstone, if you buy Kaya, you're increasing the damage you do that is spell-based. That includes Dazzle spells, Shadow Wave, Poison Touch. Even though they do physical damage, it's still spell-based damage. Spell damage means damage dealt by a spell. Magic damage means damage dealt that is magical type damage. So Spell Amp is a way to increase it. There used to be some abilities that would amplify the damage people take, and there are a few right now, but there's not many. Soulcatcher used to do it. It kind of does right now. It increases your spell damage right now. So you cast it on somebody, their HP is lowered, his second skill, and increases the spell damage you do. Rubik's skill, his passive, increases the spell damage you deal. So Rubik could steal a pure damage-based ability and amplify that damage with his passive. And I think there was another one. Bloodseeker's Blood Rage does spell amp as well. I think that's most of them. There was a DHL question about that at ESL. So anyways, spell amp being pure damage is a lot. It's very, very strong, typically. Huskar getting nerfs actually because his win rate's okay. Berserker's Blood regen talent is reduced by 5. Basically, what can I get it? All right, who at Valve didn't put a Huskar talent tree right here so that I could very casually mouse over it? Valve. Look, I know you released this patch at literally midnight your time. I think it came out at like... I think it was like midnight my time. Actually, so it was like 10 p.m. their time. But still, come on, Valve. Now I'm going to have to click here, and when I click back in, it's going to jump again. So they're encouraging you to take the other talent, the -3 life break cooldown, which would drop it down to 9. Which is quite good, but I just almost always go for more regen personally. But yeah, Huskar's win rate is actually pretty okay. Apparently better in the past, but... Life break, slow duration. Burning Spear's DPS. People like that one. It's winning them games. They're nerfing the good one. Plus 20% life break damage. Gets you up to 64%. It's pretty good, I gotta say. Get an E-Blade right there. And then this happens. This is all because Valve didn't do their jobs. All right, Jakiro. Strength gain reduced by 0.2 until int gain goes up. All right, that's a nice little swing. Jakiro does have great strength gain. Very strong, manly dragon. A little bit more mana pool, though. And then macro pyre damage increased by a decent amount, actually. Very nice. Up to 200 damage per second. Pick up an Ags. That's a pure damage. Does it do... Does it do more damage? No, just more duration, pure damage, and pierces spell immunity. So that's pretty good. This is like one of those sleeper eggs that can like genuinely win you a fight if you get it surprisingly. If you pick up an eggs, because all of a sudden like some guy that pops BKB is thinking, oh, it's macro pyre, it's no big deal. But if he doesn't know that you have eggs, it's like all of a sudden he's going to take like 1,000 damage. So it lingers for how many seconds? Like 2 seconds or something. It lingers a bit. Okay, it doesn't say here. But like it's not unlikely that you would stand in macro pyre a little bit long, and because it looks the same even with eggs, so it might take them time to realize where they're taking damage. Keeper of the Light nerfs. Here they come, baby. Cooldown increased by 2 seconds. Damage reduced by 25 at all levels, and travel speed is reduced as well. So this is a big deal. Easier to dodge. This one was so fucking needed. Bonus movement speed reduced. You're so fast. Horse light man, dude. It's like running the speed of light, legitimately. Still a big movement speed bonus here, but it's going to be a little bit easier to catch him. As we know from Venjags, movement speed bonuses that are percentage based are really good. But ultimately, like increasing the cooldown by 2 here was kind of a smart way to deal with this, because some people complained, oh, it's chakra magic that's the issue. But being able to cast this less commonly. Normally you can like channel full blast, use chakra magic, and then cast it again. It's like ready to go basically. But these numbers are also a really big deal, because the important thing is like whether or not you kill the range creep. And range creeps have 300 HP until like 7 minutes or something. Then they have like 310 HP. So at that point, you're not going to be able to kill them with Illuminate unless you have multiple null talismans, which is a big deal. Because before, you just hit like level 2 Illuminate, have like 1 null talisman. Not even a null talisman, you'd always get the range creep. But now if you just blast a wave, the range creep's going to get denied by whoever's in the lane, or you're going to have to go up and last hit it, which takes more time and is less safe. You have to walk up to the creep wave, attack the range creep 1 time, then back up a little bit, then cast Illuminate. Instead, you just hide in the trees, you never leave the trees, and you'd always get 2 last hits, the melee creep and the range creep. But now you have to get level 4 or level 5 to get level 3 Illuminate, or you'd have to have null talismans, and potentially multiples. 1 null talisman would increase your damage by 9, so you'd only do 309 damage. You need legitimately like 2 null talismans now to get that range creep, or hit level 5. It's a big deal. That might seem really small, but those numbers are actually significant here. So definitely going to be slower for Keeper to farm. He's still going to be a viable core hero probably if you want to play him in mid, but his win rate is good. He looks in game more broken than he probably is. Like the good Keeper of the Light games that look really good are like incredible, but like he's probably less broken than he looks. But these nerfs were definitely needed, so I'm happy to see it. Agility gain and space for Lifestealer gets buffed. A little bit more attack speed, but these are pretty small buffs. Life Strike rate cooldown is increased. I was like, oh, maybe they're gonna buff Lina. Nope. That's a big nerf. 13-second cooldown on Life Strike array. Used to be able to use this spell all the time. God, did it really used to always be 7 at all levels? That shit was so good. 7-second cooldown AoE stun. It just had a lot more cast delay though. That was the thing. It was harder to land. Well, it's probably needed. The hardest thing about this actually is Fiery Soul. Is that before you could just skill Light Strike Array and then Fiery Soul at level 2, and then you could cast 2 Light Strike Arrays in a row and get up to 2 Fiery Souls. So it basically allow you to like always win early fights. But now the cooldown is 13 seconds, which means at level 2 you can't continue to cast Light Strike Arrays to stack up Fiery Soul. So that means at level 2 you're only going to have 1 level of Fiery Soul no matter what. It's going to run away and you're going to have to restart the stack again. So until you're level 3 on Lina, you're not going to be able to max out or get multiple stacks of Fiery Soul. It's going to be impossible. This could potentially convince a Lina support to go Dragon Slave level 1 with Fiery Soul instead, but it's really hard to pass up on an AoE stun because stuns are so good for giving you trade advantage. But hypothetically, you could go like Dragon Slave instead. Go like 101 to 201 or something. That way you Dragon Slave and right click the crap out of people. Definitely a possibility that we see that if people want to like win the lane more convincingly in terms of like a trade situation. But if Lina is fragile at all, or if they have like good run at you heroes, there's no way people are going to be able to do that. And Lugan Blade Shard now also reduces the mana cost by 100. That's kind of nice. The Shard on Lina is like cool but bad. Unfortunately, I haven't seen people like touch the Ag Shard build in a while, but 100 less mana, sure. That's a cool way to buff it. Could justify you getting it earlier too. That's a lot of mana. You're not going to buy it at the 250 cost probably, but like 400 down to 300 is quite a lot. 550 down to 450, it's more reasonable. The raw damage that Luguna Blade does is always pretty low though, so like it feels bad generally to invest a lot of money into Lina's ultimate. It just doesn't feel worth it is the problem. It's not like Lion ulti where it's like, oh, it's a lot of damage and it increases and it's AoE, so it's really worth it to spend the money to make it better. But Lina, it's like it's supposed to be there as like a nice like strong nuke on a fairly low cooldown, so it's more or less always ready to go. But like if you're increasing the pure damage of this, and it does, if you buy Ags before you're level 18, you're like, wow, I just spent 4,000 gold basically to increase my ulti damage by 200 or something. It's not good. It's only good the fact that it goes through Magic Immunity, and that's like very situational. They'd have to like really be, I don't know, low HP-ish. It has to be like a Huskar or somebody that like plays at low HP and then stays alive, you know, with BKB. That's like the only kind of hero it's really good at. So Shard definitely needed a buff. With that said, like I'm glad they buffed it because like nobody plays it. And it's fun to go for spellcasting stuff on Laguna Blade. Thanks for the sub, Remy. Or should I say Action Dan? And then 25, attack range talent is nerfed. Almost every time people play Lina now, they go right-click items as they transition. They go like Daedalus and Satanic because it's just not worth playing a different way. Her attack range is really good. She has good attack speed. Going spell damage Lina is just not really played, but I really like playing support Lina. I think it's really fun, but it has some issues. And they keep nerfing it because it is too good, probably. But I should play it more. I should think of that more when I think about 4 heroes. I think I look at the list and she's not there, so I'm always like, I don't like any of these 4s. But Lina can kind of work. She's just not that tanky, so that can cause issues. Luna, Aghanim's Shard launches 1 attack instead of 2, so that's a nerf. The Shard search radius increased by a shitload, though. 500 is a lot. It's a lot of range. And Eclipse cooldown decreased by 20 at all levels. This is a pretty big buff to her talent, too. I know she has a talent that... I saw this the other day. Has a much lower win rate than -20. That increase on Eclipse cooldown was like pretty rough. It's like 140 at all levels, and then reducing that by 20 didn't feel that good. But now if you get the 20 talent, it'll reduce the ulti from 120 to 100, so it could make like the Axe build more viable, especially if you go like Octarine or something. That drop it down to like 75, which is pretty good. Pretty reasonable for a cooldown. But yeah, her win rate's not great right now. Keeps getting nerfed. But maybe she'll still be played. She is a strong laner. Like giving Lunar Blessing. Like I laned Bane with Luna recently. It was real good. Felt so good. Did so much right click and damage and stuff with Nightmare and right clicking. Lycan Feral Impulse bonus damage is reduced. This is basically what happened. Back to normal. Feral Impulse got nerfed before this previous Helm of the Overlord patch because Lycan was being used a little bit well. And then they nerfed it. And then they buffed it. And then they increased them. They made Helm of Overlord really good. So Feral Impulse being nerfed. This is a big deal because this is the amount of damage that the neutral creep gets as well. Any summons of Lycan all get Feral Impulse. They're all lycanthropes more or less. So, you know, when the neutral creep has like 120 damage, 4% less is helpful. A little bit less regen as well. Most importantly, the level 1 Feral Impulse, not much regen there. Summon Wolves damage, talent nerfed. Feral Impulse regen, talent buffed. Everyone goes damage, I think. Shapeshift cooldown, talent nerfed as well, down to 15. And Feral Impulse damage talent here reduced as well. This is the other one that people were getting, I believe. So Feral Impulse used to give you and your summons 78% damage increase from their base damage. 78. It's insane. Your dragon was doing like 220 damage or some shit at level 20. Way too good. 2 hits clear whole creep wave. Now he gets nerfed 4 here and 5 here, so it's 9 less. So instead of 78, it is 69. Nice. 69% damage increase. I was like, is it really 69? Huh. So yeah, that'll hurt his summon type meta stuff. Make his life a little bit worse. But Lycan's win rate is really good, so he definitely needed another nerf. His playstyle's a little boring in my opinion too. Not that I've played him since he became busted, but I watch it and I'm like, well, you just take creeps and you push with your ancient creep and sometimes you end the game. Mirana, 15 leap attack speed talent buffed. I don't think anybody gets that. The Moonlight Shadow one at 15 is so good. And then nerf to Moonlight Shadow cooldown reduction at 20. And 25 talent Starstorm damage increased. That's doing a lot. You can do 500 AoE damage with Starstorm at 25. I don't really see people skipping Sacred Arrows, though. The problem is that, like, at 25, especially from a support perspective, at 25, landing arrows on potentially 2 heroes is a huge deal. It's like a big teamfight win. It's like landing Shackle on 2 heroes. It's really, really good. My headset is turning off because there's no audio on my computer. Nothing's happening, so it thinks like, oh, no, we're not being used. And it's right. It's basically just making white noise in my ear. But yeah, at 25, if Mirana Core could become more viable, potentially, this talent is obviously really, really good. Especially if you get Ags, it makes it look a lot better, I gotta say. Because then you're doing like a 500 damage AoE nuke when you shoot the arrow through. But yeah, it does like 500 damage, and then it would do another 75% of that to everyone else. So it's like 800 damage to the guy you hit with Starstorm. It's like insanely good. It's a lot of damage to one guy. And then if you also buy Ags, like if you have Ags and this talent, you can do literally like 1400 magic damage. It's like the E-Blade build is kind of back in some ways. It's probably possible to go that build, genuinely. Like, it's a lot of damage. E-Blade, shoot arrow, or like Yule's arrow E-Blade maybe. It's not going to be possible really to E-Blade them before the arrow hits, but unless you do like E-Blade into arrow, E-Blade into arrow, Starstorm, buy Ags after or something to get more damage. It's potentially a lot of damage. Gleipnir Core Mirana. I mean, Gleipnir is definitely really solid on Mirana. It's probably easier than E-Blade without a doubt, but E-Blade's a lot more damage though. Monkey King, Boundless Strike damage reduced, so worse early. The skill kind of sucks ass by itself, by the way. If you get an ability draft ever, it's going to feel real crap. If you don't have a lot of bonus damage from like Jingu Mastery or something like that, it doesn't feel good. You need a lot of raw damage increase for it to feel good. But yeah, that'll hurt Monkey's laning stage in the early game, and Tree Dance cooldown is much worse early, so this is kind of interesting. So if you are a core and you're more fighty, like Boundless Strike and passive, you're not going to be able to jump around other trees as quickly and chase as quickly. So it'll hurt your mobility and your escape. Mostly your mobility, most of your offensive mobility. So most of the time if you're running away, you jump into a tree and you instantly jump to the ground for safety to get out of there. And then you can jump to a tree again. But now that's going to be a little bit limited. Going tree to tree, basically. So like offensive, like posturing is just going to be worse until like mid game when you have more points in it. Depends on your skill build. A lot of people do max out Primal Dance as well. Naga Siren base strength reduced by 1. Riptide chance increased by a tiny bit. And the 25 Riptide armor talent buffed a tiny bit. This is kind of weird. I didn't even see anybody play Naga. So I don't know where this is coming from. Thanks for the raid Robin roll. Nature's Prophet base mana regen increased. Good for him. Night Stalker base regen reduced. Fada is now sad. 15 Dark Ascension damage reduced by a little bit, and 20 talent strength talent reduced a little bit too. It's still pretty fine though. Like you could definitely still play him. Vision advantage it provides is really solid still. Like his regen is still really good. As a whole, this is like what? It's like less than a mango in terms of regen, so it'll still work. Omni Knight, people complained about Heavenly Grace, and it has been answered. It can now be dispelled. This is another buff to Shadow Demon. Actually, Shadow Demon was quite played at ESL when we were there. A lot of people were picking Shadow Demon 4s, and it makes your ulti so much better now because that's 7 seconds that it dispels them. Makes nullifiers a little bit better too against even better against Omni actually. Like dispels are so good against Omni. Removes your ulti and now removes Heavenly Grace. Like that's a great counter. Amazing counter. 7 like very, very good counter. So they're gonna continue buffing Degen Aura until people realize it's not very good and not worth having. It's the same early game though, which is significant. I generally feel like Degen Aura is a bad ability and I kind of wish they'd rework it, but I think it's a cool skill kind of, but like it's only really good on cores is the problem. I feel like I don't really feel like and some of it's probably that it doesn't have obvious impact that you are. If Degen Aura helps with a kill, I just never notice. Like I'm just like, oh, that guy's dead. Like he'll fight to the death, you know. But there are probably times where the slow matters. Like it's obviously very noticeable if somebody plays Omnicore and has a really good game and then like runs on you with high movement speed and slows you. You're like, oh, this shit sucks. It's annoying to play against. But like for support on me, I just don't feel the impact ever. But I mean, it's a lot of slow. It certainly could matter. And then Guardian Angel mana cost increased too. And then a little nerf to the Heavenly Grace cooldown talent. So even if people don't have dispels, it's still not going to be that great. So that'll put it from, that's a level, by the way, that's a level 20 talent, guys, reducing your skill by 2 seconds. And it's a level 20 talent. That looks like a level 10 talent to me, 2 seconds. From 14 to 12 cooldown. So that's 10 out of 12 seconds would be uptime. So pretty big nerfs, but I think the biggest counter is going to be Yules. That's the obvious one. It's the most annoying thing to play against in your Spirit Breaker, for example. Getting you Heavenly Grace somebody, you'll get Yules now. By whoever builds Yules. So, most readily available one. Pangolier, Shield Crash, slow is going to be reduced. Pangolier as a support has been quite strong. Tundra was playing him. Lots of other teams played him as core. Kind of is still flexible in roles. But nerfing the slow at early game is probably important. 16-second cooldown, 3-second slow, 25 was maybe a little bit too good. And they're going to up the mana cost as well. 15 at all levels, actually, to make it a little bit less mana affordable. And then nerfs to Rolling Thunder too, 80, 75, and 70. So you can't roll quite as often. I welcome this change because Pango's teamfight is still really, really strong. And then the 25 talent Rolling Thunder cooldown is being nerfed a little. So that would put it at like 42, from 42 to 45. So still a good talent, but maybe not quite as good. Phantom Assassin base HP regen increase. PA's win rate is garbage right now. Really, genuinely really bad. Really crappy win rate. So more base HP regen is needed. More evasion from Blur. Sure, go for it. 20% with 1 point. It used to be 20. What's it used to be? 25? No, I think this is what it used to always be, actually. It was 20 to 50. Something like this. But yeah, PA is in kind of a bad place. They nerfed Battle Fury so much, and the game got faster, so PA just kind of is not hitting the spot. Vanguard got buffed as well, so a lot of heroes just massively hard counter her in a huge amount. Because like cheap minus armor items just don't work well against rapid physical damage. So if you crit, that you could argue that's a counter to damage block, but like you could just get Vanguard on like Centaur or Axe, and then killing him is like literally impossible because every time that Vanguard procs, it blocks like all of your damage. You can have like a Deso or like Slardar amp damage, and it doesn't matter. The damage block is still so extreme. It blocks everything before armor is taken into effect. So PA needs buffs certainly to feel like a stronger hero again. PA level 15 talent, or sorry, PL -3 Spirit Lance cooldown reduced to -2. So that's going to make the Spirit Lance spam a little bit weaker. So you can't necessarily go like Shard spam as much. And Puck gets a buff to Illusion Orb cooldown. So the hero may be a little bit overnerfed, but a little buff there. Life Drain, Ag Scepter damage, and heal increased by in the early game. Okay. So it did increase it before, but basically what this means is that it's gonna be the same late game, but it's gonna feel way better to buy this before level 12 than it used to. Because I haven't seen an Ags in forever. Part of the reason is that like it would just lower the cooldown to 0, and once they reduce the cooldown from like it used to be like 20, 25, then they reduced it down to 0. Or sorry, when you buy Ags before, it always put it to 0. But then they reduced the regular cooldown down to 7. So it wasn't that big of a deal if it got interrupted. It used to be a really big deal. So Ags was amazing. And I think it increased the cast range too. But now it just does damage increase, I believe. And is that it? I think Ags just does damage increase, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, removes cooldown and damage increase. So the fact that it goes from 150 damage to 250 instead of 150 to 200 is a huge fucking deal. Like, this is a shitload of damage. This might not seem like a lot, but you guys really can't underestimate this, because if you go like Veil Ags right now, the damage you're going to deal before 12 is going to be fucking insane. I am not kidding. I am sure I'm right on this. Veil is not quite as high damage as it used to be, but like, and your cast range is still going to be bad doing this if you don't go Aetherlens first. But if you go like Veil into Ags Rush, you are going to do an insane amount of damage. Legitimately. Because when Veil used to do 25% magic resistance reduction with level 4 decrep, it's basically 100% damage increase. So that means that if the numbers aren't going to be quite the same, it's going to be like probably like 90 to 95% damage increase from your life drain. But if let's just do 100% to make the math easy, that means that like once you buy Ags and you veil somebody in level 4 decrep and ulti them, you're doing 500 magic damage a second. Per second, 500 magic damage. And however much damage you deal after their reduction of that 500, you get that back in health. So hypothetically, going like veil into Ags on Pugna means you could do an absolute monster level of damage to enemy heroes. So even if your cast range is not great, if you can force people to fight you and they don't have silences, or mainly silences, or heavy physical damage, then you should be able to do like an insane. Like this genuinely looks like it has promise to me. Okay. Anyways, so that's cool. I'll definitely try like a Pugna Axe build. Maybe offlane. I don't know. Gotta find a way to get tanky and then do offlane. Rubik base mana regen increased. Fade bolt percentage. Attack damage reduction is buffed, and damage reduction per bounce is reduced a little bit. So a little bit better to nuke and push creep waves. Should you always nuke the range creep first? I guess you have a lot of damage amp from your third skill, so you're probably still fine. But it'll be a little bit better to trade with his ability. 10% damage reduction was not much. 14% is more effective, so yeah. Sand King getting nerfed to Burrow Strike. CD increased. Why doesn't it say cooldown, guys? Valve? CD? What's CD, Valve? TI's coming up. How are new players supposed to understand this? Cast range is going to be buffed early, nerfed later. I think that looks fine. That's ultimately okay. It'll be fine for a laning stage. And then fix explosions, not damaging illusions. Oh, I didn't know that. It's like one of those things you just probably don't notice. So if you find the real hero, it's going to clear all the illusions, basically. So that's cool. Will this matter? Probably not. Because like most of the time you're doing AoE damage to like kill the right guy anyways, but now his illusions are going to die immediately afterwards. Maybe it'll matter for like some PL examples or some TB examples or something, but or maybe like if you're playing against a Darkseer or something, and it would clear all the walls for all the wall illusions after you kill somebody. But this is like pretty small. This ultimately probably a nerf to Sand King because he's got a cooldown increase on Burrow Strike, and the range distance is a little bit less. That probably is gonna matter. Disruption is nerfed, more cooldown on this because Shadow Demon is doing quite well, and Shadow Poison mana cost rescaled to just be 45 at all levels. So a little rough, but you know, later spamming is going to feel a little bit better. It's like you have a free fairy trinket now. The more you level it, the more mana efficient it becomes. So a little bit nerfed to Shadow Demon's laning stage. Shadow Fiend shard critical damage increase. I haven't seen anybody try this. So when you get it, Necromaster becomes an attack modifier. It consumes 1 soul, granting your next attack crit with a 3-second cooldown. So it previously gave you 70% crit every 3 seconds, which is quite a lot of damage. I just didn't see anybody buy it. But it's even better now. It's 90%. So it basically gives you a double damage every 3 seconds. That's pretty sick. A double damage every 3 seconds. It's not bad. But for a shard, I don't know. Maybe not worth. And then it says enemies killed grant an extra soul. So you can get your souls back faster every time you kill a creep, for example. And then 15, Shadow Raise damage increased. Interesting. And Requiem Fear per line increased as well. I saw Sumail play it one game, but it was like I only saw like a little bit and it was already late. He's already ahead. But he did get the Requiem Fear per line talent over the damage per soul one. Even though he was kind of like a hybrid magic, and he was basically spellcast. It was like normal stuff like Yule's BKB Blink. You got Arcane Blink, I think. And then 25 talent, another buff to Requiem of Souls cooldown. What's the cooldown on it? Yeah, so you can go from 100 down to 50. Which is pretty darn low. 50-second cooldown on Requiem of Souls. It's pretty sick. Especially with Arcane Blink or whatever. That means like 33-second cooldown on ulti. which kind of makes sense. Like late game Shadow Fiend is very like you have to like get those pickoffs. So he doesn't exactly like the right click builds have not seemed to work quite yet, but maybe the shard buff is gonna make a difference. Shaman base health regen increased, so it'll be a little easier for him to fight in laning stage. His armor's low, but his damage is really high, so a little bit of regen increases could be really nice. Buff the Serpent Ward's attack range by a little bit there. I feel like everybody is going to grab Shackles duration. Then Ether Shock damage increased to 380. Whoa, big buff. I'm curious what the win rates of these two talents are. Hex cooldown. Yeah, that one's really hard to pass up. Like Shackles total damage is good, but like the Hex cooldown is just going to affect you all game. 10 seconds. It's amazing. Shackles duration actually does have a higher win rate. The Serpent Ward's attack range one is just like, I don't know. It just feels so like, I just don't want to skill this, you know? It's like, why would I skill this? Because I'm going to put my wards directly on top of people. It's not like there's like one of those talents where like you don't feel it when it's doing its job, basically. Until like the ward until the range becomes like so good that you just like put it outside the tower range or something. What's our normal attack range actually? That's the real question. I doubt you can like outrange a tower or something. Go more shackle duration, which is good too when people get spell stuff. Hex breaks versus Serpent Ward's max HP. I'm not surprising that appeals to people. Because there's certainly some passives that would be really nice to bust, but +1 Serpent HP is like massive for keeping your wards alive, I gotta say. I would still probably go like Hex cooldown. Maybe skip Hex breaks, get Serpent Ward max HP. That one's quite good. Ether Shock damage, I'm not surprised, has a higher win rate because it just gives you a better AoE nuke. 25 ward attack damage is good, but like not unless you have like Ags or something. But if you're hitting 25 on Shaman, you probably have some like Ags type stuff. But again, Ether Shock damage, that's so good. It's a 700 damage AoE nuke on an 8-second cooldown. 700 damage, 8-second cooldown. It's like it's literally a finger of death with a 7-unit cone. It's pretty cool. Alright. Silencer, Glaives of Wisdom and Steel duration rescaled. So buff early at level 1. This is nice. Silencer's other skills got quite good. So making this last a little bit longer I think is nice for the hero. But worse later, which is fine, I think. It doesn't bother me at all that like the late game it's not going to last as long. Sardar's Guardian Sprint cooldown is better. This does cost mana now, by the way. I totally forgot about this last time I played him. And then 20 talent, so then crush damage goes up. The one's Corrosive Haze armor. Everyone always gets Corrosive Haze armor. Damage goes up to 280, so that would buff it to 125. So it's like a 400 AoE physical nuke. That's actually pretty sick, actually. When you think about the fact that that's a physical damage nuke, and that you can ulti people, like if you're getting that 20, your ulti's already at 20, right? Or at level 3, so it's minus 20 armor. So you're reducing somebody's armor by 20, and then you can do a 400 physical damage nuke. Like, it's crazy how good that kind of is. And then at 25, you can lower the cooldown by 4 seconds, so it's a 4-second AoE 400 physical damage. Like, it's pretty cool. With that said, Corrosive Haze Undispellable is godly. Look at the win rate, actually. It's 14% higher win rate compared to Slither and Crush cooldown. Like, who would pass up, like, an AoE stun on an 8-second cooldown being 4 seconds? And the answer is somebody that could always lower the armor of an enemy hero for 18 seconds, and they can't stop it. Like, it's so good. Corrosive Haze Undispellable is, like, godly. Manta, whatever, BKBs, like... we'll see how the win rate adjusts, but yeah, the win rate of these are pretty close, and I'm not surprised when I think about the fact that it's physical and you can lower armor so much. 10% Slithering Crush, attack and... Oh, these talents look really boring now. 10% Slithering Crush, attack and move slow. So I'd put it up to a... I mean, that slow duration is pretty big, actually. It's really an undervalued part of the skill, if you think about it. I would get this much later. Like I would never get it 10 because it's better the more levels in Slither and Crush you have. Because every point of Slither and Crush you get, actually you get 5% slow. So like you should really never get this talent until like much later, unless for some weird reason you like max out Slither and Crush, which I guess you could because the damage is actually pretty good. You could arguably like play Slardar more like a carry now, actually. Like farming, you could farm with Slither and Crush without a doubt. I wonder if that's viable in any way. 280 physical damage. Physical's not that great against creeps because creeps do have armor, but like it's really not that bad. And it slows their attack speed afterwards, so like it would actually increase your... Like I wonder if you could do some kind of a build on Slardar where you just max crush in lane. Go like 1-4-1 or something. Bash is obviously godly for like winning your lane and movement speed, like outplaying your opponent, but like just having a nuke or something, I wonder if this could be viable in some way. Because the slow lasts for 6 seconds after you stun people. 35 attack slow and 35 movement speed for 6 seconds. There's got to be some kind of value here. Genuinely. The skill keeps getting buffed. Like it used to be really bad damage. It used to be like 200. But like the slow duration is really an undervalued part of the hero, I think. The dog is sleeping in a different room. Because Guardian Sprint, the cooldown got... I mean, it's been buffed now, but like the cooldown on Guardian Sprint is pretty bad. Until you max it out of the way. But there's definitely something to be said about like, well, I could be faster. Or I could just have more points in Slither and Crush and they're slower for longer. Like, that's genuinely an advantage potential. Bash is even better for farming at double damage on creeps. Oh, that's right. It does do double damage on creeps. I forgot about that. That is right. But this is AoE though. But I see what you mean. It is up to 400 damage on creeps. Like that's a shitload. I don't know. Maybe there's some build where you could go a lot more right click items on Slardar or something. The problem is that like you really need mobility for the hero to feel good or blink. But maybe there's some value with like maxing those instead of, and like delaying sprint instead of going like a 4-1-4 build. It's a cool idea. I maybe kind of want to try it. I'm gonna have to put some more thought into it though. Like try to figure out like what items I would buy. Echo Saber is still quite good on the hero. Slow plus double attack. But maybe you could afford something else. Some like armlet build or something like that. Might be kind of cool. Slardar vs. range hero sucks. Yeah, he definitely does. Because he can't like initiate from range. It's like you have to run all the way into danger mode before... Maybe like a Shadow Blade build is probably what I'd do. Kind of sucks because like you can't ulti before you hit him, but... Shadow Blade build could definitely work. You could do like an absolute shitload of damage if you prepped it and then Shadow Bladed in. Have some sort of mana regen maybe. I guess the Echo Saber to push creep waves. You could probably jungle quite fast. Slark base attack speed reduced by 5. His Essence Shift talent is nerfed again. So that's fine. And then Snapfire base health regen increased by 0.5. Mortimer's Kisses duration reduced by 0.5 seconds. So the Mortimer's Kisses are going to come out faster now. So that's pretty good. It's like 10% faster. So you could argue it does 10% more DPS. It'll be easier to like land gobs on people, kind of. Is that true? Something like that. Kind of depends. If they're in the one place, it'll be easier to damage people more. It'll probably be easier to like anticipate movements if it shoots faster. Is that crazy? Because there's less time in between for them to like make a decision, kind of. But this might make a win rate difference. But more base health regen is good for trading. 7 base attack time is increased. That's bad. That means that your hero scales worse with attack speed now than he used to before. Stormhammer damage is decreased, so worse early, especially at like level 1, level 2. And God Strength duration reduced as well. So kiting Sven for 35 seconds is looking more viable in a team fight. So that you don't give him triple damage. He's got freaking triple damage at level 3, or at level 18. That's insane. Terrorblade strength gain increase. That's a pretty big buff, actually. That's a lot of HP. It's like an extra like 60 HP at 10 and extra 120 at 20 and so forth. Timbersaw base damage increased. He got nerfed a lot. All of his base skills got nerfed a lot. Bonus damage per tree cut increased a little bit. So all of his base skills just got reduced in damage because he was a little bit too strong at like in all situations. It was probably needed. Level 20 talent Chakram slow increased to plus 4%. Okay. That's fine. Tiny strength increased. Strength gain increased. And 25 talent. 3 toss charges reduced to 2. Yeah, that one was pretty sick, actually. When you got there, you could just, like, toss 3 times in a row till some guy died. But considering they nerfed Echo Saber, they probably had to buff him a little bit. This technically means it increases damage by 2. So a little bit better to last hit. A little bit more HP over time. But with other than like the Echo change, that means ultimately a little bit stronger. Echo's pretty commonly built, but if you just don't buy Echo, like he's without a doubt stronger until 25. So that's good. Yeah, Sven was really good. He had a really good win rate in the patch. These are not the biggest nerfs, but certainly the base attack time one is going to matter in terms of like some mid and late game DPS calculations. Like maybe he can't attack you one enough times to kill you now before you Glimmer Cape, for example. Like these little things like really add up when Sven is so bursty, because he like jumps in, he stuns you, and he attacks you until you die, and hopefully now he won't be able to get that extra attack in to kill you. That could be you casting a stun on him first and running away, or glimmering or force staffing or whatever else. So little attack speed nerfs to a hero like Sven, who has a small window, is a big deal. Tusk Snowball cooldown reduced by 3 at all levels. That's nice. Walrus Punch crit damage is scaling better, so it's actually better to skill this up now. Before, when you hit like 12 and look to level up Walrus Punch, the only really good thing about it was the cooldown decrease. It does more slow duration afterwards, but like, eh. And it goes through spell immunity, of course. That part's nice, but it's gonna scale a little better now. Tusk will still be played exclusively as a support, I'm sure. He just doesn't have like good enough AoE to justify him playing as a core. What is even his shard right now? I don't know. Oh, that's right. It's the trapped ice. For some reason, I thought it was based. I thought the trapped people was the regular shard, but I forgot it's his, or the regular ice shards. But it's his Abaddon shard that does it, actually. Enemies trapped with an ice shard suffer from 40% slow and take 60 damage per second. Increases their depth by 300 units. I gotta look at this. I don't know what the hell depth means. I want to see what this looks like. Yeah, they took away Frozen Sigil, unfortunately. I thought Frozen Sigil was quite good, but no one did it. Jeez. That's pretty cool, actually. I don't remember doing this. Alright guys, Sven core is on, or Tusk core is on the menu. That's a lot of damage. Like, Tusk core is legitimately on the menu. Because now, like, if you just max this out, obviously you gotta hit 20 or whatever, but it is your most spammable nuke anyways. It's only 100 mana. But, like, very easy to push waves with this now. And now if you're chasing people, now if you're like chasing some hero and the hero is trying to get away, like, this is a huge difference. Before it'd be like, you'd be like this little like line, right? You like you put this in and they're like, oh, that's inconvenient, I have to go this way. But now it's like they have to run all the way back. Like, yeah, catch someone without a blink. This is like, and they're taking damage and they're slowed. Like, that's pretty sick, actually. Now, if they have like mobility built into their hero, hard counter by Tumbler Toy? No, because if you hit them with it, then Tumbler Toy prevents blink. With that said, Tusk's win rate not looking good. And his win rate looks worse today. So this is probably people seeing the patch changes and being like, oh, let's play Tusk, try some shit out, and doing bad things. Because people are probably playing Tusk core today and having a bad time. But I wonder if there's some value to going like nuke Tusk, like we used to. We used to like max shards and snowball, and his third skill used to be Frozen Sigil, and you get it later. Because then you just have like a lot of nukes, right? Like, and his mana costs are really low actually. So like if you max out shards and snowball, it could work. But the cooldowns are pretty long. It's better though. I mean, if you like bring an ally with, stun duration goes up, you get 100 extra damage. Like, it's not a terrible nuke if you bring an ally with Snowball. It's like 105, then 170, then 235, and then 300. So, I mean, you can nuke for like 600. With that said, like, this skill, tag team, has by far been the skill of the hero for a long time now. And if you don't get tag team, you're doing significantly less damage with your ulti. But you could farm. Certainly. Like, it's not like he doesn't have AoE. Like, I forget about this because tag team has been like the skill for so long. But he does have AoEs. If you just max them out, the cooldowns are not that bad. There was a period of time where I would just like snowball ice shard creep waves all the time. Like all the time. Only does 480 without the talent at 15. So you could do about 600 AoE with both. Or you could just buy the shard and clear everything, no problem. And then justify more item purchases. I mean, and Shadowblade's also really, really good on Tusk because I think you get the amp damage, gets crit, if I'm not mistaken. It's like a Shadowblade on Tusk is quite good. I don't know, there's potential here for sure. I gotta try this. I gotta write this down. Tusk 2 or 3. I think 2 would work just fine on him, honestly, because there's obviously lots of runes to grab. Ganking side lanes is probably not that bad. And if you got some points into Snowball and Shards, so you can get some punches off. Gank those side lanes. I mean, really, you just need at least like 1 point in tag team for the extra slow. Obviously, the ulti damage with it is amazing, but if you're a little over leveled and the enemies have like kind of squishy heroes, like I can't help but think that you couldn't just like snowball in and kill some 5 position hero repeatedly every time you gank a side lane, you know? I have to think that that'd be good. So that's kind of a cool thing to think about. And then 25 talent snowball cooldown by -8. So you could put your snowball at 7 seconds. That's pretty good. The other one's the Walrus Punch chance for free. But a 7-second snowball, I like that. That sounds pretty good. Just constantly chasing people down with it. All right, Underlord. Fiend's Gate cooldown is reduced by 20 seconds. I haven't seen somebody play Underlord much. Just seems kind of bad. They nerfed his Firestorm Radius talent. And the 20 talent atrophy aura damage reduction increased. Sorry, which one is this? 20? This is like the extra damage reduction. So atrophy aura would go from 35 now to 50. Which is really good against your like Morphling type heroes. Any like stat type heroes, incredible talent. Armor talent, massive win rate advantage over the Firestorm Radius. Plus 1% Firestorm burn. Oh, it does 4%, so this would put up to 5. Yeah, this one just seems quite good. People are getting it less, but it's like really solid. Like against stat-based carry heroes, this is a lot of damage reduction. Draw Ranger, Morphling, Terrorblade type stuff. Pitamouse Root. This talent's really good, but it actually does have a weaker win rate, unfortunately. I really like it. If you win a fight, like you give your allies a lot of damage. But Pitamouse Root's really good. Okay. So Underlord's still kind of crappy, unfortunately. He's a little slow. He just like sits around and hits creeps for a long time. He buys teamfight items, but like you need somebody that can actually get kills. So it's like then you have to buy like Atos because the game is really fast right now. So if you buy Atos, it's like, why didn't I just pick like an offlane that actually ganks well instead of like doing Underlord, you know? I mean, if they have like some illusion type hero, he can be really nice. And certainly Pitamouse is great against like all these mobile heroes. It's really good against them, but there's just better heroes. Undying base mana regen increased. I like that. Definitely helps 5 Undying a lot. And then the decay damage talent got buffed. Yeah, that one sucks. 50 decay damage is not worth it. It doubles on creeps. There's 110 damage extra. So now we're doing 220 doubled. So yeah. 440 damage from decay on creeps now, which is really solid. It's like really, really good. But I still don't like the shard. I don't like how they changed it. It's like, what, I'm just going to buy attack speed items on Undying in the late game now with the shard? It's like, even though his agility gain is literally garbage, 1.2 per level, it's like, so rather than spending on tanky items, you want me to buy damage item? I don't know. Like, Drum is kind of good and all, but like, And sure, lowering the flesh golem cooldown is nice, but I'm not sold on it. Yeah, Echo Sabers, it makes sense, but you just don't really get a lot of opportunities to right-click as Undying typically. You right-click people sometimes, but not... Like, you'll right-click them once every, like, couple seconds, but, like, going Echo Saber and trying to DPS isn't really that commonly in the cards on the hero. Like, it's all about getting tanky, more or less. So, not sold on it. Maybe something like Armlet could be cool, but... Nah, you just need, like, Drum Echo Saber or something. I don't know. Ursa, AoE, Earthshock buffed. Agility gain. Oh, I thought this was a buff. I was like, what? Agility gain reduced. That's pretty significant. Because not any agility you lose is not just damage reduction, but also Venge damage bonus, though. Vengeance, Scepter, Illusion bonus movement speed reduced heavily from 25 to 12, thank God. And the Ag Scepter Illusion now is a hero HP bar. That's helpful, actually. That way you can, like, clearly tell, like, oh, this is, like, a fucking hero. And it's less, like, it less blends in, basically, as a threat. That's going to help weaker players, for sure. But the biggest nerf here is certainly the movement speed. The issue is that, like, if you increase your base movement, like, Venge's base movement's pretty bad. It's, like, 290. But if you buy, like, a Sanjin Yasha and get, like, a Windlace, and then you die with Ags, your movement speed becomes, like, 450 or some shit. Like, way too good. It's 295. So with like treads and the Sanjin Yasha, your movement speed's like 370 or something. But when you die, it becomes like 420 or something around there. And then you're just like really quick. And then you become really annoying. It basically solves like her cast range issue, more or less. So reducing the movement speed is a really good start. I think it still allows her to play, like, it's still going to be good. And it still has purpose. And I think that's really important because I really do like the Ag's playstyle on Venge. I was a big advocate for it before they removed it. I like it. The fact that you can, like, when it was a talent, I was really mad about that because it's like, oh, you have to hit 20 or something to get it. Instead, now you could, being able to buy it on your schedule really opened up the option as a core. And I like the fact that you could die but still be alive to cast spells. I love the fact that you can get a damage reduction from your ulti, but the fact that the illusion was just so fast all the time and it was like literally impossible to kill if you didn't have like a Scotty. That shit was fucked up. And even if you did have a Scotty, it was still a little hard to kill. That shit was like, it was like way too good. The movement speed was way too good. So reducing the movement speed is a huge help. It's going to make a huge difference because mobility advantage, if you can just run away after dying and then like resume to continue casting spells is too much. Because being able to like jump in a fight, take a bunch of spells, forcing them to use a second round of spells to kill you a second time, and if they can't successfully get you and you can just run away, it's like, it's way too many resources. That's why Vengeance has such a big teamfight impact. So, yes, very necessary nerf to the movement speed. That was definitely the right way to go, in my opinion. Venomancer Agi gain reduced, and the Plague Ward HP damage talent is nerfed as well. Okay. Is Venom even good? The Ags is pretty good, but I don't know. I only played him one game and we lost. Agi increased for Viper. Magic resistance decrease per stack increase. So Viper's one rate must have gone to the trash. No. Well, he had some bad days, but it's like not. He had some pretty bad days. I mean, they nerfed Nether Toxin a lot, so you couldn't just like power farm with it anymore with just 1 point. Was the issue. You need 2 points to get back to the previous level 1. So that hurt him a lot for sure. I don't remember the other nerfs. But that was certainly the most significant one. But more magic resistance decrease per stack is pretty solid. So you can reduce magic resistance by 50% instead of 45. So a little more potential for damage. More agi gains pretty solid in terms of right click stuff. Not terrible. It's probably fine. Like you should like Nether Toxin was just too good, honestly. Like I would just play Viper games where I just wouldn't even fight my opponent. I would just like blast a wave with a 70 mana spell, and then I'd go do it in the jungle, and then I'd go blast a wave again, then I'd do another camp. It was just like it was too good in my opinion. So I think nerfing in that way I'm comfortable with, as long as they buff it in other ways to compensate, to make him like more like he was before. Like if I want to on Viper, I could easily just get like 1 point in corrosive skin or 0 points in corrosive skin and just focus on farming. Like it's not really hard to do this. to prioritize like the farm speed, the farm pattern if I prefer to play Viper that way. Totally reasonable, honestly. But the problem is it was just too stat efficient before, so you didn't have any weaknesses really. You got all the benefits with none of the stat weaknesses. So Void Spirit, 10 talent, 8th remnant damage reduced a little bit. They overbuff Void Spirit just a little bit too much, it looks like. Dissimulate stun talent reduced. Warlock upheaval buffed heavily, 35 seconds at all levels. I haven't cast a spell since they reworked it, actually. So it lasts 10 to 16 seconds. They're slowed for 3 seconds after leaving the area. Slow per second is 12% early. The max slow is 40. So basically, like, it ramps up the slow faster than it used to at low points, but the cap is a lot lower as well. So it can't like, you can't like cast it for like 20 seconds and have like 100% slow like you used to be able to. So basically, it should be more usable now. Like, it's probably a really good skill right now. Just, it's probably better than Fatal Bonds early in laning stage, honestly. If you have like a carry that either has good movement speed or it does a lot of damage, it's probably way better. Weaver base health regen increased by 0.25, so even better for Weaver to lane. And then mana cost on Shukuchi dropped down to 60 again, back to where it used to be in the glory days. So more Shukuchi trading. Basically, your ability to win the lane as Weaver is just better than it used to be. All good advantages. Buff to Death Ward in late game, which is fine. Voodoo Sutruru mana cost goes down, cooldown reduced a lot. Yeah, whenever people use Voodoo Sutruru, it really just didn't bother me in the absolute slightest. I'm like, well, I'm going to kill this guy in 2 seconds. Until then, I'm taking no damage. Like, it just didn't do that much damage. So it's a double buff to Voodoo Sutruru. It's going to do more damage in the late game. And the mana cost is less. And the cooldown is so low, so much lower that it just doesn't feel as bad. The problem with Voodoo Sutruru mainly is that, like, people use it a lot when, like, somebody goes on you. But, like, you really need to use a skill to dodge initiations or spells that are flying through the air. If you don't, it just doesn't feel very good. Like, if you, like, Voodoo Switcheroo as you're about to get Chronosphered, that's great. But, like, every other time that I see people use this shard, I'm really underwhelmed. It just doesn't feel that good. So, lowering the mana cost and the cooldown reduction is super valid. Like, the issue is that Witch Doctor just doesn't scale well. Beast of a laner, by all means. He wins lanes, he amplifies damage, but in later stages of the game, just doesn't feel that good. And getting Ags on Witch Doctor doesn't feel that amazing right now. They reduces damage talent too. He had damage and health. Now it's like Voodoo Restoration mana per second is better. So like you can Voodoo a little easier, and Voodoo is quite good. I haven't seen anybody do like Locket stuff with him actually. But it's probably not bad. Maybe you could go like the old style of Witch Doctor where people would go like 4-1-0. Like when Maledict used to be bad in Dota 1, people would go, they'd max out Cask, they'd get 1 Voodoo, and they'd just get stats. And so they'd have more HP and more mana, and they'd have mana regen for their team. They'd still have their stun, and they'd still have their ulti. And it was kind of a cool way to play, because it made you just survivable. But with this talent being here and Holy Locket in the game, I wouldn't be surprised if some kind of like weak, low amounts of Maledict build could be good, honestly. Because if you're running around pumping out like 60 HP per second heal to you and your teammates, that's pretty sick. And the win rate does look good on it. And you probably get health talent to give you a bigger barrier to not die. But with that said, like, look at his win rate. It's bad. It ain't good, guys. Witch Doctor is not a strong hero. Just like, he starts pretty strong, but it just falls off so fast. Like, once people get mobility items or BKB, your hero just sucks, unfortunately. Getting Axe just doesn't really feel very viable on him. For whatever reason. People just, there's high mobility, people just walk away or something. So, I don't know. 25% less mana, that's like 5 less mana per second. Huh. Witch Doctor, Bad Dazzle. They are similar looking. Wraith King, Wraithfire Blast, damage over time increased by 10, and impact damage rescaled. Worse early, better later. So, level 4 Wraithfire Blast now does 120 damage, plus 80 times 2, which is 160, so it's a 280 damage nuke now. Level 1, it does 60, plus 40, so 100 damage instead of 90. So it's a little bit better early. It does 100 damage instead of 90. And late game, it now does, instead of 240, it does 280. So encourages you to level it up a little bit, What's level 2 do? It does 80 plus 80, so 160 instead of 140. 160 damage level 2. I do like getting a couple points of this. I noticed Nico Baby does this a lot when he plays like melee stunner type heroes. He does usually get like 2 points of his nuke. It's not that uncommon to do it on like a Sven type hero, but I've noticed him do it on Wraith King quite a few times. He just likes more oomph from his spell, more damage, more disable. I mean, it does scale quite well, honestly. 3 seconds less on cooldown. I used to love Wraithfire Blast when it was an 8-second cooldown single target stun. You just like stun people and slap them till they die. It was fun ability. Used to stun for 2 seconds on an 8-second cooldown. But yeah, quite a good skill to level if you're looking to fight. But obviously, jungling wise, it's pretty useless. Mana cost goes up a lot too, actually. And finally, Zeus Lightning Bolt now targets the closest nearby non-hero enemy unit in range when ground targeted if there's no heroes in range. That's a really nice quality of life change. I was sad about this. This happens sometimes. You'll like accidentally click on the ground instead of on the creep, and then it just doesn't do anything. It just gives you vision. So it basically guarantees that you could use it to farm when blind now, which is nice. So like if there's like a low HP creep rounding the corner after it's running away after aggro, you could bolt to hit it. Also means that like in the course of a team fight too, you could better clear creep waves, or so like sometimes you bolt the ground to try to hit heroes you miss a little bit. At least now you get a range creep instead or something like that. It's a nice little like quality of life increase that'll just very slightly increase Zeus's damage in team fights, make him better against pushes, that kind of thing. Helps playing blind camps. That's a really good point too, actually. That as a Zeus, you can double stack creep waves now. Very easy. Double stack creep waves or pulling a camp without having to run as fast. So yeah, stacking with it is great. Like yeah, you can definitely play like Zeus, and I don't necessarily think Zeus support is gonna be good because Zeus core is kind of bad, so I would assume Zeus support's not good. But yeah, you could definitely like double stack camps with Zeus pretty easily now. Much like you can do that on Venge too with Wave of Terror, very similar. What happens when you want to hit an invis Ricky? Will you auto miss? No. Ricky will still get hit, most likely. Still is going to hit Ricky. I don't think it's going to... If there's a hero... I assume it gives True Sight first, and then it'll target like a Ricky. It's not just going to be like, oh, there's a creep here, we should hit that instead. Zeus Refresher Rush felt good. That's a good point, actually. That is an itemization that genuinely might be correct. Like, when they upped Thunder God Wraith cooldown a lot, they upped the damage as well. Which was kind of nice, right? It used to do like 225 damage. Now it's 300. 300's a lot. Applying Static Field does a lot of damage too. But the issue is that I think they did this because they made the Octarine build-up so easy from Aether Lens. It's like, oh, Zeus's are always going to buy Aether Lens. So like the fact that he can get an Octarine with only 3,000 gold past time he always buys, like why wouldn't you just rush Octarine all the time on Zeus? But the problem is that if you rush Octarine, like it's bad. Like, lowering the cooldown on, like, Bolt and Arc Lightning is not that incredible, actually. If you get Refresher, though, the damage is now higher, so your base raw damage is really good. You can double Zeus ult, do a shitload of damage. It gives you mana regen. It's kind of a perfect item on Zeus. It might limit your, like, raw mana pool, but I think there's a lot of validity to, like, a Refresher being good on this hero. Genuinely. Last time I played him, though, I bought a Yules, because I think they had, like, an Orchid hero or something like that. I don't remember exactly. Yules felt really good on Zeus too, actually. I really liked the Yules. I got movement speed talent. I had Yules. I basically run into a guy. I use Lightning Bolt, Arc Lightning, a second Arc Lightning. Then right before that, out of range, I Yules them. I get a little closer. Then I do another round of Lightning Bolt, Arc Lightning, and then ulti. That felt really, really good. I really liked the Yules. Defend myself when they jump on me, because they will, and gives me 2 rounds of spells, where normally like 2.5 seconds is enough to get a second round. For Zeus, it absolutely is. So I really like I like Yules on Zeus a lot. Recommend trying that. But Refresher sounds really good too. Egg spells a little bit less good than it used to be. Probably got nerfed a little bit, and yeah, for whatever reason. Ulti's lower cooldown, so it's harder probably to do like Nimbus ulti, kill a guy, that kind of thing. You missed the entire patch notes. It's been almost 2 hours. Speaking of which, I'm very behind on running an ad, so I'm going to run an ad now, and then we'll play some games.
Hooray! Hooray!
Thanks for the subs, guys. Hotashi Adasterin. Thank you. Why are you so bad at using the shift key? I don't know. Depends like what your orientation of your keyboard is. Depends how big your hands are. Is your pinky strong? I use my pinky, for example, to use for the shift bar. Depends on a lot of things. Oops. My bad. Change your entire Dota control scheme to not use edge pen camera, and the adjustment's rough. Yeah, dude. I was watching Suns fan stream the other night, and his camera movement is smooth as fuck. He uses camera grip like basically all good players, and his ability to move around the map quickly was extremely precise. I was very impressed by how quickly he could like look around and gather information. It's a lot harder on with edge panning because it's way less precise. Use WASD to move camera. I mean, I WASD is very similar in the benefits of like being able to move your camera in an efficient manner, and I'm not saying it's bad, but I think it's bad because it uses a lot of really crucial keyboard keys, and I use like every key on the like the left half of my keyboard for Dota specific hotkeys. So like the idea of losing 4 prime ass keys is crazy to me. That's all. Click the minimap and use arrow keys. That's straight up bad. I would recommend changing that. Couldn't use edge pan from at all. Did grip from day one. That's lucky for you. Glad you managed that. So let me look this over really quick. Think about things I want to try. Monkey King Bar hero. Monkey King Bar is probably still kind of a mediocre damage item but some heroes that can be good. I still haven't bought Silver Edge much, to be honest. Tusk maybe. Like in some ways, like the Shadowblade Tusk idea kind of makes sense if you get a lot of the first 2 skills, because like you're not going to be able to use tag team and then Silver Edge and then punch a guy normally. Typically. But so like in some ways it's counterintuitive, but if you use your first 2 skills to be able to push creep waves, get nukes, like kill supports repeatedly, like if I'm a scary 3 and I have levels and I have level 3, I'm just going to fucking snowball on that 5 every time, and we're just going to kill him with help from my 4 position hero. That sounds pretty scary to me as a 5 position hero. So I feel like if I max out like Shard, Snowball, buy like a Shadowblade and like get on the map with nukes and kill people, like it's going to be pretty effective as a whole. Maybe disengaging after I snowball in is going to feel bad, but if you pick fights correctly with wards and stuff, or maybe Shadowblade, it's probably very possible. So I feel like a Tusk 3 could be okay. It's probably bad for various other reasons, but like the mana cost and the skills are low enough that maybe something like a Soul Ring, you could get away with it. Maybe even if you go like Treads or something. Phase is quite good on Tusk though for chase reasons, but yeah, I'm gonna pub now. What else got changed? Anything else I want to try? Maybe like A with max Chilling Touch. More of a fighter build instead of ulti burst. Arc Warden maybe core would be Arc Warden, Ags Rush. No coward, comma fight people. I mean, it's a lot of damage. 310 damage times 2. Is it only on heroes though? Or is it any creeps? If it's any creeps, it's pretty decent. Flux cast range, health talent. Bane got nerfed a little bit, but pretty inconsequential. Batrider, more or less, slightly nerfed. Beastmaster nerfed moderately. Bloodseeker, baby nerf. Haven't tried new Bounty Hunter yet. Double Edge a little better. Did I even say Stampede cooldown? Oh, that's right. I raged about the no S. CK buffed. Decent, but a little inconsequential. Chen basically about the same, but probably on paper a little worse. Clinkz got nerfed. CM maybe. Frostbite, level 2. Dizzle. I could Dizzle some more. I should play Disruptor. It's a hero that I want to play more. Man, I really like the Bloodstone build for Death Prophet, but they put the Cryptstorm cooldown at 15. I forgot about that. Maybe I should go back and try it. I talked about it, but I haven't played it since it came out. See, like, my stats look really good for Death Prophet. I feel quite like she's definitely one of my best heroes, I think. My numbers are really good, but I don't think my win rate might be a little bit weak. It used to be really, really high, like 75% or something. But Bloodstone's just so freaking expensive, dude. And once they get once they hit a Scotty timing, shit just sucks. It feels really bad. But I don't know, like Bloodstone Ags is probably a lot better than it used to be. Like Ags feels a lot better with that Cryptstorm cooldown talent, and you can actually get it now. You can just go like Bloodstone, like Cloak and then get Ags maybe. Because once you get Bloodstone, you're gonna farm mega fast. I know, I think that sounds pretty good. Death Prophet 2. Bloodstone Eggs. So, in terms of 2 position heroes, I got Arc Warden, Death Prophet, Tusk 2 or 3. I'd probably prefer the Tusk in the 3, I imagine. I want to play Grimstroke, but he's probably still weird / bad. I'll put him on the list though. I really like the hero. I think he's. I think all of his basic skills are really fun. His ulti kind of just it doesn't quite sell me as much, but I haven't played Jakiro much yet. I've not played enough Dota since I got back, but I'm glad there's a patch when I'm actually home, so I can actually try stuff out. Lina 4, always gonna love that, except for right now, but Lina 4. Ooh, Marana Core, E-Blade into Axe. Is it really that ridiculous to rush E-Blade as Marana? Probably is. What if you went like Atos, E-Blade, Ags? That's probably not that bad, actually. I know people are thinking about Gleipnir or whatever, because Gleipnir is a good Marana item. It gives you more AoE. But like, it might just be better to go Atos, frankly. The downside is that if they have an Orchid, you're fucked. You have to get Yules. But if you can get away with like Atos Marana, and they get like E-Blade, at that point, if they have just Yules or BKB, you're kind of fucked anyways, I guess. But I don't know. And you got to hit 25 or whatever. But I don't know. It sounds kind of fun. Jakiro's felt bad. I mean, Jakiro's still good. He's just like not incredible, I guess. Oh, Pugna. Fast Veil into Ags, praying to God for Keen Optic. So you actually have any attack range at all, or cast range at all. 250 damage. That's so much. So this cast range is 700. It's really not that bad. Anything else I want to try? Shaman maybe. Oops, these are all 2s. Shadow Shaman. I really don't. Oops, Slardar core. Slardar 1 with max crush and bash, question mark. Like maybe it's worth it with even like a treads or something. Yeah, I guess most people go tread Slardar anyways, but like if you're like tread switching, crushing with lots of bash points, like you probably jungle really quick on Slardar, genuinely. If you just skip sprint. I don't know if you can skip all points of sprint, to be honest. That's 25% movement speed, but maybe you can skip one. Slardar crush build, yep, got that one. Undying Earthshocker, Viper farming maybe. Farm heavy. I mean, it's not really like anything special. Warlock with upheaval. Oh, Witch Doctor, Locket, heal, less maledict, less stun. I could do either. Basically, you do less stun or less maledict. Okay, that's a pretty good list. I really didn't list that many ones. It's basically like Slardar. That's basically it. Slardar, pretty much. I mean, you could maybe manage something with like Dazzle potentially, but excuse me, Dizzle. Maybe Death Prophet could get away with it, like Bloodstone and Ags, especially because she has more base mana regen. She could probably side lane even better, and she got a movement speed buff actually. She might be okay as a side laner, genuinely. Like do a one position, then go for like that carry build as long as my mid has tempo. I think that has potential, frankly, because you can farm mega fast on that. You just won't be like the most traditional right clicker, that's all. All right, what are we trying today? Rooting. I believe I can root. Kill heroes from invisibility. 6 heroes from invis? It's like if you don't play Ricky, like I fucking hate these challenges, genuinely. It's like you got to play Bounty Hunter or Ricky or you're going to have a bad time. We'll go for 6. I don't think I've ever... This is the worst thing about I've got a lot of EU people in my guild. They take all the easy challenges. I'm left with like, use smokes. Okay. One second, I gotta translate. Let me put a timer on this event. Not all day. Boop. Save. Okay, good to go. Let us queue unranked and see what we can do. So, like I said, I don't have that many 3s either, actually. Man, I could always play more Pudge, but... to position... supports... carry. Yeah, I don't have a lot of 1s here. Lots of supports. Got some 2s. Thanks for the sub, Oomflies, Oomfies Boom. Do that challenge with any Silver Edge Builder hero. That's every hero. PA. Did I have ideas for PA? I don't know if I did. PA kind of sucks. It's the issue. I think if I do Veil Pugna, I'm just doing like 1 Null Talisman straight into Veil. Probably. Maybe skip Wand. Probably shouldn't because like there's a lot of heal stuff you can do, but ideally in a game where they don't have a lot of stuns. Fairy Trinket, Keen Optic. Definitely the ideal ones. Maybe Arcane Ring. Deso or Brush. I mean, Deso's definitely good on PA. It's one way to like make her fight early better. But, kind of mediocre too.